So in recognition of Martin Luther King Day yesterday and the week, I'd like to just start with a quote from Dr. King. Everybody can be great because anybody can serve. You don't have to have a college degree to serve. You don't have to make your subject and verb agree to serve. You only need a heart full of grace, a soul generated by love. So why do we set aside January 15th as a nation? Because it recognizes Dr. King's legacy of service while inspiring us to serve in our own ways. Many of the things Dr. King advocated for during his lifetime, racial justice, economic equality, affordable housing, labor rights, etc., are still issues we're trying to figure out today. Dr. King wrote, spoke, marched, and stood up for what he believed in. The National Constitution Center sums it up pretty well with the following quote. Today, the King holiday serves multiple purposes. It honors the total legacy of King, focuses on the issue of civil rights, highlights the use of nonviolence to promote change, and calls people into public service. Although Martin Luther King Day is a federal holiday, it's designed as a day on, not a day off. It's the only federal holiday designated as a national day of service by Congress. It encourages all Americans to volunteer to improve their communities. The day of service uplifts people to address social problems, bridge barriers, and move closer to Dr. King's vision. This past weekend and throughout the week, opportunities to volunteer exist within Cache County, with the Cache Refugee and Immigrant Connection, with the William A. Bernard Warming Center, at Zutah taking down Christmas lights. The point in time count will be this next week through Bragg, and the Cache Humanitarian Center always has activities going on. Please just check at Just Serve or directly contact any of these organizations. As a community at large, we are invited this week to join Aggie's Walk the Walk on January 20th at noon. Meet in the quad, walk the Hello Walk, and end at the Wayne Estes Center. It will end with comments from USU Athletics leadership, the USU president, and student leaders on the importance of MLK Week at USU. The walk is a public way to help us reflect on our civic responsibility, both individually and collectively, toward the common good of every member in our community, at USU, throughout Cache Valley, and across our state. Through service, we build stronger unity and strengthen our valley. Please join me in service, and now join me in our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That was awesome. Yeah, so just all remember, we all can serve in our own way. Okay, at this time, I would accept a motion for the acceptance of the minutes from last meeting and approval of our agenda. Joan, I'll jump at once.
I move for acceptance of the minutes and approval of the agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any conversation? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We've accepted our minutes and approved the agenda for tonight. Just a reminder, for our 2024 regular meeting schedule, we always meet the first and third Tuesday of the month at 5:30 here in the council chambers. Our next meeting will be February 6th, 2024. At this time, we now open up the floor for any questions and comments for the mayor and the council. I'd just like to remind anybody wishing to comment, this is always on items not otherwise on our agenda. You can address the city council at this point. Just step to the microphone, state your name and where you live. Comments should be limited to no more than 3 minutes. And if you need any additional time, I can always authorize that. If you're coming here with a group, we'd ask you to appoint a spokesperson. It's the time and place, again, for things that are on non-agenda items. If you bring forward a question to the attention of the council or the mayor, just be aware we need to make sure that you've signed in so that we have your contact information. So if there's any follow-up that's needed, a member of the city staff or the council will follow up with you on that.
Hello, my name is Paul Rogers. I'm a resident of Logan. I live very near here, just a few blocks away. I want to thank you for this opportunity, and I also want to finally meet up with you on the same night after about 6 weeks of trying to do so. But congratulate the new members and the re-elected members of the council. I'm not sure if I congratulate those who are still on from before. I'll just let that fly. But thank you for this opportunity. I'm here today to talk about the educational program, Turn Your Key, Be Idle Free, and it sort of links into a local ordinance that we have about not idling your vehicle on public land for more than 2 minutes when the temperature is above 0 Fahrenheit. I've been working with this issue at the local and state level for many years. We've printed up these cards. I've printed them up with my own money and worked with the mayor's office and with the city council members to get suggestions of how to distribute these in an equitable way. So we worked through the neighborhood councils. All 5 of the neighborhood council chairs have taken a bundle of about 400 of these and presumably will distribute them in their neighborhoods. And they're merely educational. They're not punitive. Nobody's in trouble. And we hope to basically cut down on idling our vehicles in the wintertime to improve our air. It's one easy way to do so without limiting anybody's travel, because the very definition of idling is you're not moving while your car is running. So I wanted to thank you for that, and thank you for the assistance of that. And I have a couple of bundles here if anybody in the audience is interested in being part of our citizen army of distributing these. But I just wanted to emphasize there's more to do. We clearly have a limitation right now that this is only on public land, but you won't be surprised to know that that air does not stay on private land. We have other ordinances and regulations about burning materials in our yard, burning toxic materials. We have other civic responsibilities in front of our private property, such as shoveling driveways and mowing lawn on the park strip. These are reasonable things to do, so I would impart to you, City Council and Mayor, that we still have issues to work on if we want to reduce idling. I think none of us are interested in making penalties so much as we are as cutting down on poor air quality when vehicles are sitting alone. So putting our brains together, what can be done that doesn't overreach our authority but still is effective in terms of cutting down on vehicle idling. I'll just say one more thing. The world's leading expert in PM 2.5 is a professor at BYU named Arden Pope, and one of the nation's leading researchers in this field is Randy Martin here at USU. So we know a lot about this. We know you do not need to warm up your car for it to run better. Well, we usually warm up our cars to warm them up so they're comfortable or to defrost our windows. There are other ways of getting to that point. So what can we do about this? We can use some of the expertise that's available to us, but mostly I think we can work together to try to work on this issue and improve our air. So that's all I have to say, and thanks so much for your help with this.
Thank you, Paul.
Jeff Schmaller from Logan. I'll sign in after I leave, but I'm still really concerned about the whole Woodsonia project and the fact that impact studies have not, planning and zoning and even this body has approved this with apparently some impact studies not within the, for people to see, for the public to see, or been presented to the planning and zoning, such as, traffic problems that it will create, because we're talking about 346 units at that corner, which is going to funnel most of that traffic in front of Mount Logan Middle School. Second East is not, it's not designed for how much increase of traffic is going to happen. Main Street is not able to take the increased traffic. I know that we deal with a lot of people from out of the city using it, as a byway to get to and from work. However, if you've been out on Saturdays and Sundays, you'll still find it a nightmare. To even turn right, you have to wait for a light. By putting that project and, Mill Creek, which is building another one, and L59, which is going to be completed here soon, by putting that many people directly onto Main Street. During rush hour, they have to go to and from work. It's not thinking about the people, residents, the well-being, or the safety of this city. And that's why, I think it's just really, really irresponsible to approve the Woodsonia project. It was pushed through too quick without people really getting to know what's going to happen. The amount of people that are going to lose their jobs in there for employment, even though it's maybe at about 40% capacity in there, there's a number of people that are going to lose their jobs. Unemployment, it's going to cost taxpayers through unemployment if they're not able to find another job. And it's all based on how much money that particular project is going to produce for its private investors, which is a substantial amount. And I think that is what has overshadowed people's decisions in approving that project, is how much money the investors are going to get out of it, with no concern to the safety and well-being of everybody else. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. Anybody else? Okay, I will then turn the time over for our mayor and staff reports. Meetings.
Thank you. I am delighted tonight that we have a special Logan City Police Department Unit Citation Award. We don't do these frequently, but we had some outstanding work recently on a case, and I'd like to turn the time over to Captain Nazer, who will tell us the rest of the story.
Thanks, Mayor and City Council, for letting us use this forum to recognize some excellent police work and teamwork, as well as some of our citizens in the area who also helped out with this incident. So I'm going to go through and just explain what happened in the incident. I'm going to try to kind of recognize each officer and what they did as part of the incident. I know that all of you probably did much more than what I know about, so if I missed something you did, I apologize for that, but I wanted to at least mention some of the things you did to help out and resolve this in a peaceful, successful conclusion. So what I'd like to do is I start reading through this. As you hear your name read, both officers and then the civilians, just come up here so that we can recognize you. But as we call their names, if everybody would hold the applause for now, we'll have an opportunity for that if you so choose at the end. So on December 4th, 2023, dispatch received a report from the Weber County Dispatch that a black 2019 Range Rover had been reported stolen from their jurisdiction. The owner had reported the vehicle stolen and said there was a loaded firearm in the vehicle. Through electronics in the vehicle, it was learned the vehicle was in Southwest Logan. A citizen in the area called in a short time later and said that a friend had stopped by her house in a black Range Rover, and based on the interaction with him, she suspected the vehicle had been stolen. So we're kind of putting those things together there. A short time later, Officer Weston MacArthur, who unfortunately couldn't be here tonight, he's out of town, but he located the vehicle in the area of 2000 West, 1800 South. Officer MacArthur attempted to stop the vehicle, but the driver fled. Officer Sergio Alvarez, if you'll come forward, but he was nearby and joined the pursuit as the secondary officer. When Officer MacArthur became unfamiliar with the area and observed the driver blow a stop sign, he wisely terminated the pursuit. He observed, however, the vehicle continued down a dead-end road, so he and Officer Alvarez continued down the dead-end road and ultimately found the suspect was still in the stolen vehicle and had pulled behind a farm building. Officers MacArthur and Alvarez held their position and called for backup. While waiting, they made efforts to evacuate a nearby residence and kept eyes on the vehicle. The suspect then fled in the vehicle through fields, damaging fences along the way. Sergeant Matt Woods, who was supervising the shift that day, had already been monitoring the pursuit, arrived and established incident command. Lieutenant Derek Dickey, and he's an LCPD drone pilot. He arrived and was able to get a drone in the air to safely and effectively track the suspect's movements through the fields. A request was made for a canine, and Officer Zen Waite and Canine Shogun responded to assist. Despite numerous efforts to get the suspect to surrender and peacefully be taken into custody, he chose instead to flee on foot when the Range Rover became stuck and disabled. Officers Kyle Larson and Melissa Pettingill, as well as Corporals Ryan Christiansen and Andrew Solberg, responded and assisted with setting up a perimeter. Officer Lyle Davis, I don't believe he was able to be here either tonight. He's currently assigned as a LMC, Logan Municipal Court Security, but he's also a longtime SWAT team member. He responded to assist. He didn't have to come. He could have easily said his day was over, but he chose to respond and help out where he could. It's also worth noting Officer Pettingill, after being there for some time, was asked by Sergeant Woods to go back to the city to handle some calls that were backing up there. That's oftentimes not an easy thing to do because you want to be involved in the exciting thing or see that to a conclusion, but she only went back and handled calls, which was part of the teamwork that helped get this done, so we recognize that. Officers MacArthur, Zenway, and Corporal Nate Robison formed an arrest team and pursued the suspect through the field. Keep in mind this is cold weather. This is out near the Little Bear River. There's a lot of water, marshland in the area, and they pursued right through that area, got wet themselves during this time. Again, the suspect was given commands and ample opportunity to comply, but failed to do so. Due to the dangers involved with apprehending the suspect, Canine Shogun was released and was able to catch the suspect. Officers MacArthur, Waite, and Corporal Robison got to the suspect as quickly as possible, wading through knee-deep water in the process to remove Canine Shogun and take the suspect into custody. An ambulance was called to provide first aid to the suspect. He was ultimately transported to the hospital for evaluation and to obtain a medical clearance for jail. Drugs and drug paraphernalia were located in the stolen vehicle, and the handgun and loaded magazine that had been in the vehicle when it was stolen were found outside of the vehicle a short distance away where the suspect had ditched them, indicating that he had found the gun in the car and had possession of it for some time before he abandoned it. Officer Landon Krotz, unfortunately, was not able to be here, but he had been working diligently behind the scenes during this time to identify the suspect, run record checks, as well as coordinate with Weber County and the owner of the stolen vehicle. He also assisted with perimeter, drone observation, and relaying communications, as well as evidence collection and documentation and impounding the stolen vehicle. The suspect was booked into the Cache County Jail for numerous felony offenses, including possession of a stolen vehicle, possession of a dangerous weapon by a restricted person, theft, evading, drug charges, and destruction of property. We would like to recognize the excellent police work and teamwork exhibited by these 12 officers by presenting them with the Logan City Police Department Unit Citation. We also want to publicly thank the dispatchers and law enforcement officers from other community agencies who responded and assisted with this incident. We appreciate our great working relationship with the other Valley agencies. We also want to thank some of our citizens who live in the area and jumped into action to help our officers. Kyson Smith, you guys come forward too. Jason Whittier, Forrest Olson, and Dan Thatcher. These individuals provided valuable information to officers to help set up a perimeter, help officers gain access to the fields, and even used a personal tractor to pull a stolen vehicle out of the field where it had been stuck, as well as a patrol vehicle that had become stuck during the incident. As I mentioned, their help was invaluable, and we recognize them with the Chief's Commendation Award.
Just real quick, I want to prolong these guys' misery. They love being up here in front of everybody, but we do want to thank them very much for their efforts. We've heard this a lot, but we're not perfect. We're humans, and we happen to have a job, and we wear a uniform that requires us to run to trouble when everyone else takes off. This was a person that was dangerous, that needed to be dealt with, and it was a partnership, not only of our police department, but civilians, community members, other departments, the Division of Natural Resources, dispatchers, everybody helped coordinate. This took a lot of manpower to take care of, but it took a dangerous person out of our community, at least for a while. Very happy with these peace officers, very happy with our community members. We can't do it alone. We're only 60 officers here in the city of Logan for tens and tens of thousands of people. We depend upon community members to help us out. So thank you for your help, especially to them. But to these officers, we don't recognize them enough. They're good people doing a tough job. Thank you for everything. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, and we're happy to excuse all of you to slip out to go to whatever duties you need to go to. So thank you very much. That's the end of my mayor report for today.
Thanks, Mayor Daines. So people may not be aware, but once a month, Logan City Council and Mayor Daines, we meet with the police officers and look at all of the use of force videos from body cam and dash cam that's gone on, so that we can have an understanding of what our police officers do, give feedback if we see any area of concern. And we had actually the opportunity to watch this drone video just before our meeting today. So it's definitely a group effort, and we appreciate the efforts of the police. Thanks, Chief Simmons, for the great training that you give to our police department, and for also recognizing the importance of recognizing them. So thank you. We'll now move on to council business. Councilwoman Simmons, anything to report from Planning Commission?
Yes, there were two projects approved and one continued. The Old Man Building Addition is a 3,300 square foot single-story commercial building at 185 East Cache Valley Boulevard. That was approved. An addition to the Campbell Scientific Building at 815 West, 1800 North was also approved. A cell tower was continued. There was some concern about its location close to a new park facility down by Willow Park. So that will come to the Planning Commission next meeting.
So is the Old Man the one that's at the old movie theater?
It's spelled with two N's.
Yeah.
Right next to the wall.
It is M-A-N-N.
Two N's.
It's not just an old man building.
Okay. It's not like the Brown Man's Chinese Theater, right? Like on Hollywood.
It's not like just,
Thanks, Jeannie. All right, so we have, as part of responsibilities of the mayor and the chair of the council, every year we look at our board and committee assignments for 2024. Those have been distributed to all of our council members. They're also in the announcement for today's meeting. We've not heard any questions or concerns from any of you on them, but now's your last chance to say, I'd rather do something else, or I'd rather not do this one.
I don't want to do this.
You don't want to do any committees at all?
I had plenty of opportunity to comment previously, so I think I'm okay.
All right. So is this something we need to approve, or is this
It's just more information.
more informational?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you're interested in learning where else we all spend our time, that will be on the city webpage shortly. Other council business, just from my perspective, for future agenda items, one thing I think is important is that people do recognize that our council members are here more than just twice a month from 5:30 till 8, whenever things finish up. And so a few years ago, we were doing this, and I'd like to reinstitute that on alternate meetings, that for those of us will share the weeks, but just to give a very brief update on anything that has come up on the committee or the board that you've been assigned to, just so that people are aware of those things that are going on. Because many of them don't have minutes available to the public. Boards, yes, boards and committees. So anyway, so that will be a future agenda item moving forward. We'll probably start with Mark and Jeannie, maybe at our
That'd be
next
fine.
meeting to give a quick update on anything. And
I'm okay with that.
Ernesto, Mike and I will go the subsequent week.
And I'll throw in Ernesto in there
From
somewhere.
time to time, yeah.
Oh, I said Ernesto, Mike and I will go the following.
Oh, okay. Oh, I
We'll do
didn't hear.
2 and 3.
I didn't hear
Yeah.
Ernesto, sorry.
Yeah. 'Cause
So
I
will
think-
that be the second Tuesday?
So we'll get
of
the
every
second,
month
we'll get the
that we'll do?
third Tuesday.
Third,
when we
yeah,
meet.
the second
Yeah,
one of the
second
month.
meeting,
The
third
third week of
Tuesday.
the month, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But again, I think, it's important, there's committees like the Bike and Ped, which is helpful to know.
Which we met
people to
last
know.
week.
Yes, you did, to talk about Bike Week in May
We
and all
did.
of those things. So anyway, so we'll be starting to do that on our future agendas.
Perfect.
All right. Now we'll move on to our action items for the evening. Our first is a public hearing on the consolidated plan for the annual action plan cycle for 2024 and the consolidated plan for 24 to 28. Thank you, Mike, for walking us through this.
Okay. I'll just be really brief. Maybe. Thanks, Russ. Maybe. I will say I want to get a dog for our department.
Okay?
I've got one you can use.
No, your dog. One of those dogs.
So that you have an excuse to get up and walk, take it outside for a walk every once in a while?
Take care of that occasional person that needs to be bitten. No.
Tanya's a really good employee. What are you talking about?
Alrighty, so we are doing tonight's just a quick public hearing on our 2024-2028 consolidated plan for the Community Development Block Grant Program. Part of this whole process, there's a lot of public engagement, public involvement. So this is kind of the kickoff to say, hey, we're doing this, and then also let people know certain dates. So just some background information. Logan is an entitlement city for CDBG. This program targets low, moderate income residents. And it provides funding for community development, housing, public services, public facilities, accessibility improvements, things like that. It's not a ton of money, but every year we get about $500,000 to $550,000. It doesn't go as far as you think it would, so we try to get the biggest bang out of it as we can. So this year we are doing a new 5-year plan, and we're also have to do our new annual action plan. So we do that annually. You'll see us annually in the springtime. So again, the purpose of this public hearing is just to notify folks, and also if anybody has any ideas that they want to see us to look at in this comp plan process. And then our philosophy in CDBG has been to try to benefit as many residents as possible. So try to do some sustainable improvements that have lasting value to not only this generation, but the next generation. So it's an income-based program. Any kind of activity we do has to meet a national objective. And the biggest one, obviously, is to benefit low and moderate income residents, prevent or eliminate slums or blight, or meet an urgent need. And that's typically less common, and that we don't see that very often. But really to determine LMI, most of the city is considered low to moderate income. There are some areas that aren't. We can also use other avenues to get there, limited clientele. There's also groups that are presumed to be low, moderate income residents, so elderly, disabled, abused kids, battered spouses, homeless people, illiterate adults, migrant farm workers. So we've used that method to get to specific projects or specific things like CAPSA or Family Place, Senior Center, things like that. So our plan that we're finishing up, 2019 to 2023, the priorities in there were suitable living environment. So 40% of that, so 50% of that funding that we get every year would go to that, and 40% of that would be for neighborhood infrastructure in LMI areas, so sidewalks, ADA corners, things like that. Then 10% we had used for remediation of access and mobility barriers, and those would be like sidewalks and parks. 20% or 30% of the priorities for this 5-year period, 20% were towards public facility improvements, 10% was to improve the service capacity of service providers, and then we have 20% basically for program admin and some minimal neighborhood planning. So suitable living environment, everybody's familiar with this, you see these pictures every year, basically put in 88 across sidewalks or corners, new sidewalks, and then ADA accessibility through parks, so like Willow Park. We've got a new ADA accessible playground down there. We want to make sure that kids can get there if they're in a chair or they need some assistance. Public facilities and public service providers, so things like we've helped fund public art, improvements at the Family Place in CAPSA, new playground facilities or surfacing at the Whittier Center and then the parking lot of the Senior Center. And then we've done some planning with the grant, so the Logan Public Arts Master Plan, the Accessibility and Mobility Plan, and then analysis of impediments and fair housing. So what we assume going forward is that this new plan will have similar priorities to the existing plan. That's something that we will vet as we go through the process with the council, the steering committee, and the public. We've got a consultant working on preparing a draft plan right now, Chrysalis out of Georgia. We anticipate our first workshop with the steering committee February 6th, and we have a draft that we're working through. Hopefully we'll have a refined draft by then, and we can walk the group through what we've got and then kind of work from there. We're going to do a couple of public workshops in February. We'll do public outreach, and we have been noticing social media, internet outreach, neighborhood councils, email distribution. The consultant did a public survey early on. That'll get incorporated into the plan. Had a pretty good response. They had a few hundred people that responded back to the survey. We started a formal 30-day comment period in April. We anticipate workshops and then adoption with this group sometime in May. Annual action plan kind of follows the same process, but just trails the comp plan a little bit. And this we are hoping to have adopted first part of June. And that's it. Any questions?
So with the funding that comes in annually, I know we've had projects that have trailed over because they aren't completed in a given year. Is there the ability with CDBG funding to make a determination in advance that we're going to take funds from year 1 and 2 combined to have a larger project? Or can you help me understand just the flow of money and how that might work?
Yeah, so on these types of projects, when we do a sidewalk project, we typically will fund those that are within a budget, and then those that we know are a little bit bigger, we'll put those as a receiver project, so they will capture the excess funds from years 1, 2, and 3, and then hopefully get funded fully in year 3. Certain things we can't carry funding over, so like public services, we cannot carry funding over. We have to, we're limited each year on what we can spend for that, so we can't take 30% this year and add it to next year, and then the next year. Federal guidelines don't allow us to do that. So if we wanted to do a project that was, say, fund a parking garage, we can do a program that basically would borrow against our allocation of 3 to 5 years, use that, and then use our annual allocation to pay off that debt.
Okay.
So there's a way to get there with that. We talked about it in the past, but I don't know if we've ever done that in the past.
Okay. Just curious.
So, but the goal is to do things that, there's a lot of needs out there that are competing. So, homelessness is an issue. We can help that, but there's also a need for folks just to get out their door and walk down the street without getting hit by a car, right? And so when you fund these types of improvements, they have a lasting value for not only the immediate folks that are there, but also the next generation. So when you fund a sidewalk, it's not glamorous, it's not sexy, but it does have value to enable people to get to work, to get to school, things like that. So.
And these funds cannot be used for things like staff, correct? It has to be
right.
Like infrastructure and I know there was a recent change in terms of what's considered allowable expense, wasn't there, in terms of like supplies versus?
Yeah, we have to be careful on what we help purchase, what kind of supplies we purchase, because there's a lot of accounting on our end to manage that equipment or those supplies. So. Same with staffing. We don't want to pay for a salary that may not be there next year because priorities may change. So again, it's coming back to how do we fund things that have lasting value, and that's really the hard stuff, the hard physical things.
And our CDBG is for Logan residents specifically, correct?
Correct.
And the county has their own CDBG funding.
Yeah, and Bragg gets state CDBG funding. It's allocated through the state to Bragg. So we partnered with Bragg last year to do housing rehabilitation because they already do it with their CDBG money. So this was a way to target their existing infrastructure in Bragg to kind of reach out to people to do it. But they do have their own funding sources.
Okay.
Any other questions for Mike?
Budget-wise, is that budget listed, is that a per year budget?
Yes.
Yeah, roughly.
And it fluctuates every
Sure.
year. I think the high, we were at 750,000, the low, we were at 400,000 based on whatever Congress allocates, but we average about 500 to 525 a year.
Perfect.
And our 5-year plan is over 5 years, we want to try and hit the percentage targets that we allocate.
Yeah, the goal is in that 5-year plan, we should really give it some thought on what we want to do over the next 5 years. We want to try to hit those targets. The outlier is we don't know what's out there from a public service capacity or a need. So that's the one area we're not sure of. If folks don't apply for a grant, say that the English language, we won't spend those funds in that purpose. We'll spend it towards infrastructure. We always have a need to do sidewalk, ADA corners, things like that. Crosswalks, yeah.
Okay.
Anything else? This is a public, you have a question?
No, sorry.
Okay, this is a public hearing, so if anyone would like to come and speak to the consolidated plan, please come and state your name and where you live and keep your comments to under 3 minutes. All right, seeing nobody, we'll close the public hearing. I guess Mike will look forward to seeing something on February 6th at the workshop then, correct?
Yeah, and I'll get it to you probably a week ahead of time.
Okay,
Okay.
thanks.
Thank you.
All right, our next public hearing is for Resolution 24-01. It's a consideration of proposed resolution for amending fines and fees at the Logan Library. Karen, you want to come on up?
And I want to remind you as well that the sewage ordinance has been
yes.
continued, so maybe just in case somebody's waiting on it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry. So one of the action items, which is
Second to last.
F, which was continued from October 17th, the public hearing on the ordinance related to regulating sewers and sewage disposal. That is being postponed till April, second meeting of April, because we have not yet received the state guidelines on that. So it's not anything on our end, but we're still waiting for the state guidelines on that. So item F is being postponed until April.
April 16th.
Second meeting in April. I don't know
April
what it is on
16th.
Do we need to move that? Do we need to do that?
Yeah, so when it comes to that
Yeah,
additional.
but just
Yeah, when it comes to it.
in
Okay.
case someone was waiting specifically for that one. Okay,
Well,
and Sarah.
sewage.
All right, I presented this plan last month, or last
Meeting.
meeting.
Yes.
Last meeting.
Felt like a long time ago, but it was just a couple of weeks ago, sorry. And like I said, we didn't have really any changes except for the interlibrary loan item not returned. We're just going to charge $5 over what the owning library charges. We are going to remove our processing fees, and we are no longer allowing patrons to replace items. They will have to pay the purchase price that we paid for it. And otherwise, our fines have stayed the same, and so, yes. And so we'll be bringing forth to you later our meeting room fine fees and our makerspace fees when we have those done.
I know there was some discussion that I read that people thought we should charge 25 cents for
Yes,
overdue.
I saw that
we did get an
email.
email from a citizen who thought that our overdue fees were not enough to discourage people. So I don't know if you want to
Yes,
speak to that, but they thought that.
And, well, I looked at what was around the state and felt like with our patrons, that what we were still charging was still right. The big thing is we want our items back. We're not out to fine people if they don't bring the items back. We're out to, if they don't bring them back, and we need to get them replaced. And that's the big thing, is if they don't bring them back, we do charge them the full price. Other than that, we're not charging a first grader if he didn't bring back his chapter, his early reader or something, 25 cents a day. We're charging him 10 cents per day overdue. So, and I have had parents that will enforce that rule with their kids, with that. They have to pay for their allowance that way. So the main thing we want is to get our items back. We don't want to ask patrons to pay more than what they can afford and be afraid to use the library.
And I guess at some point, if it's so high, they might be like, oh, well, I already owe $5. Why should I bother bringing it back? So there's could be a disincentive if the fines are high.
Well, then they have to pay for the book. They have to pay the whole.
Well, that's assuming they come back to the library. They might never come back with $3. I think the email he said his concern is our fees covering like the time it takes to administer those fees was what he brought up in that email. I don't know if that's important to the library right now, or?
It does, in that most of our overdue notices are sent via email, so it's really easy. It's not much for staff to do. We do some via mail that people still like, but most of our overdue fines are via email, so that's pretty well, doesn't take a lot of staff time.
Sure.
What takes the staff time is when we do the final bills, when people haven't paid for their item and we're charging them to full price, then we send out a regular mailed bill to them. And then if they haven't responded and their account is over $35, then our collection agency actually gets in touch with them, and they don't like that either. So we do make good amends to try to get our things back.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Karen before we open the public hearing? No? Okay. This is a public hearing on Resolution 24-01, the first one of the year. Anyone liking to speak to this, please come forward to the microphone.
I have been volunteer, this is Gail Yost, PhD. I have been a volunteer in libraries since 7th grade. And I have to say that I absolutely loved working in the old library, regardless of the physical problems that they had. But knowing that we have this new library and that people need to take care of the property and make sure that the pieces get back in time, not just by fines, but just get back in time so someone else can use it, especially in the children's library. It's so important for the children to have access to lots of different choices. Anyway, I'm all for the fines and the fees that they have decided are necessary. And I think that they're keeping things in good shape.
Thanks, Dr. Yost. Anybody else? Seeing no one, I will bring it back to the council for action.
I move approval of Resolution 24-01.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution 24-01 passes. Our next public hearing is on budget adjustments for fiscal year 23-24. It's Resolution 24-02. Rich Anderson, would you like to give us a quick and dirty update on this one?
4 items to consider. The first is request to appropriate $11,535 for the K-9 training seminar that we have pretty much each year. A request to appropriate $400,000 for a repair to the hydro pen stock. This will be through an insurance reimbursement eventually. Request to appropriate $23,900 for employee benefit changes. And lastly, a request to appropriate $1.4 million for second dam sediment removal. We did get a little minor proposal for that removal, and it's coming in exactly at 1.4. So, well, actually, just a fraction below that. It doesn't give us much for flexibility, so worst case scenario, we may have to come back for a little bit more, but it does cover what the initial estimate is.
Any questions for Rich before we open the public hearing?
And it is specifically for the additional sediment that came in behind the dam from last
year.
spring.
Correct.
Okay.
And the hydro pen stock someone ran into, correct?
That's one where a car hit a steel pipe.
A big steel pipe.
But it's getting covered by insurance eventually.
It should, yes, it will.
Yes, probably, hopefully.
It's semi-agreed to, and we'll see after it's done what happens. Either way, it has to be done.
Either way.
This is public hearing. If anyone would care to come to speak to Resolution 24-02, please approach the microphone and your name and location. Okay, seeing nobody, I'll bring it back to the council for action.
Move for approval of Resolution 24-2.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Okay. Seeing none, then all in favor of Resolution 24-02, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution 24-02 is passed. Our next public hearing is a rezone. It's consideration of a rezone of a property located on 200 East. It's ordinance 24-01.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a really quick update. This is a 0.13 acre property. It's located on 2nd East, and it's a home that was built in 1909. It's been used as a single-family home ever since. The future land use plan calls the area to go to TC eventually. TC is broken up into 2 tiers in the zoning map. TC1 is a more dense, urban, taller zone, and TC2 is meant to be a transition or a step-down zone. So it's got lower heights and lower density. This is an application from Sun. She is in the audience and attendance here tonight. She has the intention and has now submitted a conditional use permit for review to create a small boutique hotel, a 3-bedroom hotel / gallery space for occasional events that Little Bloomsbury would host there. So very small scale hotel. Planning Commission recommended approval, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Russ?
I think I got all my questions answered last time, so
Okay. Anything from you
that's
guys?
just me though.
I bet. What's the rest of Mike? So we can cut all my questions answered.
Okay. Anything, Gina?
Nope.
So I have one question. So I know if this is rezoned to TC2, and if at some point in time we make some changes to allowable use or anything within TC2, how would this parcel be grandfathered into the original TC2, or would the new TC2 govern over them, since we haven't done anything yet?
The parcel would not be grandfathered. What could be grandfathered is the structure or the use on top of the parcel.
Okay.
So if the rezone is successful tonight and she completes the process with the conditional use permit and the business license for a boutique hotel,
Okay.
and then the zoning in the future changes and says, okay, no more hotels, she would be grandfathered for the hotel. As
Okay.
long as she actively, uses that property. But the actual parcel wouldn't be grandfathered. It could change zones in the future, and then the rules associated with that zone could change in the future as
Okay.
well.
Okay. Thanks.
And the neighbors were notified, but no comment, as far as seeing on the documents here. Is that correct?
Correct. We had no written or oral comments at the Planning Commission.
questions for us before we open the public hearing? Nope. All right, this is a public hearing on ordinance 24-01, a rezone of 181 North, 200 East. If anyone would care to come and speak to this, please come up to the microphone and state your name, location, and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Josh Mahler from Logan. This is actually a really cute idea, and keeping it, within, the community. Three rooms, for a motel.
Actually, 4.
Oh, 4 rooms. Four rooms, compared to what has happened with, the big motels, like right across the street from Burger King on Main Street, and all the other tax haven motels that have been produced. I think this is this type of stuff that we need to be looking for in Logan, instead of rezoning for these mega developers. This stuff supports local stuff, unlike these big developers. They're only supporting themselves. So I think this is a great idea. Thanks.
Thanks, Josh. Yeah, come on up.
By the way, I do not know this gentleman. I'm happy to get to know him.
Unsolicited testimonial.
Appreciate the work you do, you all do. Actually, I've moved to St. George. It's been 4 years, but last time when I came back in December, it's just amazing. It felt like my hometown. And this back when I come back, it feels like that. It just gives me the chills. And I definitely will be coming back more often. And thanks to Russ Holly and Tanya Rice. They've been doing so much to help us in the process and to educate us on what needs to be done in view of not just what we want to accomplish, but the benefit of the community and how relevant it is to, what our hopes and dreams and desires are as a city. So as Russ Holly has mentioned, our building was first registered at the county in 1909, so exactly 43 years after the city of Logan was founded. Yeah, so actually a lot of people, when they first heard of this boutique hotel idea, they were just going, what interesting projects have you not got to go into something like this, because it's labor intensive, it's mentally intensive, investment intensive. We have been remodeling since May, and we have gone over the $100,000 mark already. Just something very simplistic. We're not doing like fancy stuff or anything like that. But very importantly, we are actually restoring. I lived there for 15 years, so I have been actually restoring the place on an ongoing basis, even during the 4 years when I was in St. George. But right now we actually, restoring like the wood flooring, even just that is more than $30,000, just the wood flooring alone. But what we really want to accomplish, if we cannot do the community and arts related activities, then the accommodation will not even be a consideration for us. Yeah, so what we want to really accomplish, our goal as a high-end boutique hotel is to be a social enterprise and a first-class social enterprise, and also a training organization, like a first-class internship training organization, because a lot of it involves arts and design and landscaping and also arts and literature and music and all that, so it would create a lot of opportunities for, it will be like a launch pad, as we have done in the past 15 years since 2007 up to the time of the pandemic as an art festival. And the business will also share the mission of Little Bloomsbury Foundation, the 17-year-old Little Bloomsbury Foundation, of promoting peace and hope in an uncertain world. If I may, as also our goal is to be a high-performing no-profit organization. So I know the two, a lot of times, you don't expect the two to go together. Yeah, so maybe I can highlight what exactly we are doing. So indoors, of course, we have the accommodation, but also because we are actually into this world-building business, so that when we give tours or when the guests stay with us, they actually feel like they are in this, turn of the century, 20th century setting. And we invite people who come through or who stay with us to actually, if they're in the mood, to create art and music and literature that will speak to that historical setting. And also definitely to create original and authentic work in this AI-driven world. Yeah, and of course we need help from many different intelligence sources to see how we can accomplish that. And also just to highlight two programs that we have in mind. First of all, we are not targeting for 100% occupancy. We are targeting for 80 to 90%. So what are we planning to do with the remaining 10 to 20%? So two programs that we have in mind that we definitely would love to be able to implement with the blessing of the council tonight. First of all, we would like to provide, working with the Veterans Association, we would like to provide a retreat for veterans who have been seriously injured, like have military-related injuries, as well as the long-term caregiver. So it's not just like the few days they're staying with us, but very importantly to have the opportunity to promote veteran well-being as well as caregiver well-being, because lots of times with our work since, for 17 years with the foundation, working and promoting a lot of nonprofits, the recurring message is like we need to promote caregiver mental health. Because a lot of times the attention goes to the person who's receiving care, whether it's a veteran or a disabled person or just an elderly person or a person with special needs. Is always the focus is always that person receiving the care, but the caregiver will really be worn out, mentally, worn out and emotionally drained and all that. And we actually, by, providing accommodation as a respite or retreat for them, we are actually big on helping to promote that. And also, for 17 years when we did our art festival, everything was free and open to all ages, including yummy food from Great Harvest Bread, Firehouse Pizza, Caves of War, many different organizations. So that we're very, very grateful to have all those support, including the Utah Division of Arts and Museum. So this time we will be selling art, but actually, strictly speaking, Little Bloomsbury is not selling art because 60% of the gross proceeds will be kept by the artists. They will actually be doing the transactions. And 40% will go to a newer nonprofit, or maybe one or two newer nonprofit, such as the Warming Center. Because we want, when people stay with us or when people come into this setting, yes, it is a more high-end setting, but we want to really, for us all to remember that there are people who are in less than desirable circumstances. And also, very importantly, also to promote the understanding is that any one of us could actually end up at a warming center. And thank goodness we have the warming center now that opened last year. I first spoke to Nicole, who started the program at USU, and now she's in Salt Lake. And I've been in touch with Lindsay, and also we're getting together tomorrow night to just find out how we can work together. So once again, it's not just the 40% of sales, but it's the opportunity to promote the idea of houselessness. Now, we select to use the term houselessness, which was suggested by the Architectural Design magazine. Yeah, and because we think it is a more accurate description. Yeah, and do I have
So I think
30
that's-
seconds?
Wrap
That is a fun thing, is a honeymoon scholarship. Okay, so we are offering like a free honeymoon stay to college students who have high credit scores and a reasonably high GPA and community service, and also who can convince us that they are ready to get married. And once again, it's not just those few days, but it's
anybody can
really the
convince me of
opportunity
that.
for us to say, hey, you know what? These are the many things that we can do to increase the likeliness, the chance of having a happy and well-rounded marriage. Yeah, so just.
Right, thanks.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I know that was more than 3 minutes, but
I love her enthusiasm.
anybody
infectious.
else like here to speak to this the public hearing to the rezone for ordinance 24-01? Seeing no one, I'll bring it back to the council for action.
So I have some concerns about whether we want to, I understand that there's a lot of TC2 behind this piece of property, but I also have a concern as we are moving toward a new general plan that we consider what we want to have across from the temple and close to downtown, whether it should be NR6, whether it should be some form of other thing, but I hesitate starting the ball off with a piece of property that's sort of stuck between NR6 properties. So that's my concern about the whole thing, is it's just, I want us to seriously think about what we want in the long term in our community. Is it all going to be just commercial and we're going to lose some of that character that everybody talks about? Or are we going to more carefully determine what we want some of these areas to look like? Because once they're gone, they're gone. So that's my comment.
So is this part of the historic district, this property, this stretch, or is that, where does the historic?
It should be.
Yes.
Yes, it
It's
is.
within the
I see
HPC.
you had that last
Isn't
time.
it? Or is it just outside? I'm looking at the zoning map. Is it just outside of it? Or is it?
The
No,
historic,
sorry, you're right.
historic district, it's in it.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
I know how to read a map.
good for you.
I was Boy Scout.
And I agree with you, Jeannie, that it's odd to have a little strip of TC2 which has very different building opportunities than, and this feels more of a request to change the usage that's allowed in an NR6 than a
Well,
TC2.
I know that not too long ago, the proponent came forward with a request to make it into an Airbnb, which was approved by Planning Commission. So I don't, it's all a little fuzzy for me, and I'm not sure that I feel comfortable just sticking a TC2 in there.
So with that Airbnb approval, what would be the differential between
A boutique hotel.
Yeah.
a
So-
boutique
Yeah.
hotel and an Airbnb or a short-term rental?
The difference is the gallery use would not be allowed, nor could you have 3 different parties rent in an Airbnb or short-term.
Because the short-term
You
rental
only
is
have
one.
one contract, one party in a home.
Okay.
Those are the differences.
Can you remind us of the uses in TC2?
So it's mixed use. It allows a range of commercial uses, restaurant, office, hotel.
So bed and breakfasts aren't allowed in
Yes, they are.
NR6, are in NR6?
Correct.
Okay.
NR6 is pretty much residential or short-term rental, small daycare. Those are the kind of things in the NR6. So it does open up the use chart quite a bit. The structure, again, it's such a small piece of property. It's pretty going to be limited on size. There is a canal that traverses the property, which has setbacks and offsets. So it's pretty limited in development potential for a new structure, especially being a lone property. Now, several of these properties were combined. A bigger site could be assembled, and then, redevelopment is more likely. But yeah, that's the main differences.
And I'm also a little concerned that it is a property that shares a driveway with there are three houses that share the same driveway. So there's the brown roof, and then the one in the back. And it's just a little narrow driveway. But anyway, that is not
Can I ask what your
germane.
concerns are with TC2 or commercial across from the temple?
I just don't know whether that's what we're after when we're trying to build character in our community. I don't know. We are constantly talking about what makes Logan special.
The essential character of a neighborhood.
And
I think what she's doing though really keeps the character of the house, even though its use is a little bit different.
And that's why I said, to me, it's really more of a usage question than a zoning question, to be honest with you, as far as is that stretch.
But in the current zones, you can't do it.
Right.
So if we zone it the other, then she can, which kind of fits in with the plan, so.
And if you change the NR6 zoning stuff, then that means this could be done anywhere that's NR6.
Sure.
Yep.
Sure. I didn't mean to cut you off there, Jeannie, sorry.
So that's all right.
I like the concept of changing the use, but maintaining the house and.
Yeah. Because I think I do think part of it, you are maintaining the character by keeping that house, that historic home. And it is expensive to remodel an old house.
Yes.
And
old buildings, we know all about it. So.
I know you guys had this discussion in December, and we'll have it more tonight, but I couldn't afford to throw $100,000 at a home remodel right now in my life.
Yeah.
I wish I could. But after buying a house, that would be a expensive remodel.
Yeah.
And so it does give us, it gives us the opportunity to keep that historic character home.
I'm going to tell you that if you own a historic house, that's part of what you do. You keep it up.
Yes, it is.
And you refinish floors. And
But a lot of people, truthfully, even in Logan, a lot of people don't, just because it is so expensive. I wish they all kept it up as nicely as yours, but they don't all. And I can't necessarily blame them
And
either.
historic commercial buildings as well, too. Nobody understands how much money we put into our building to maintain it every single year because it's 140 years old. So it's just part of the plan. So welcome.
I don't know. Because I don't know if a small hotel with 3 or 4 rooms kills the character any more than a short-term rental, which would be allowed in there.
It kind of feels the same to me too.
What's that word?
I said it kind of feels the same to me too. Like if
But
it's a
it
short-term
was-
a short-term rental or a small boutique hotel with art in it, kind of feels the same to me. But
But that might make sense to this street, but a short-term rental that's in the middle of a truly residential area. This is surrounded by commercial.
Yeah.
That would feel very different if all of a sudden we said, well, short-term rental, you can have 3 different parties in with, and you can have,
in the same spot,
multiple cars because you've got 3 different bedrooms being rented out, and it becomes more of a bed and breakfast versus a short-term rental. So I think that's where I'm struggling with this, to be honest with you, is what's described sounds like an amazing project for the area and fits with this concept of a big project. But I'm struggling with the underlying zone of TC2
because of what could be done.
Because of what could be done and because it's sandwiched by the NR6.
But I think once again, you'd have to buy
on TC2
4 or 5 of those properties and somehow figure out the canal easement.
Mm-hmm.
Truthfully, it would be hard to
Well, one of the things is you have to make the decision, in my opinion, you have to make the decision what you want in the long run. You open a door.
Sure.
And the door's open. So is that what you want in the long run for
This area.
that area?
I mean, I do think it's important for downtowns to be able to be flexible. It is part of downtowns.
It's not really downtown.
This is considered the outer core.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's 2 blocks from downtown.
You got a lot of,
Do you have handy, Ross, the use chart for TC2 to throw up there? The land use chart of what?
I can go through it really
I mean,
quick.
I have it up here, but I think
You can't beam it off over there?
I can't beam it over there. Scotty.
Rose, I have the.
Oh, I got it.
there's a lot of homes that are converted in that area into small businesses. You know, Phelps Photography used to be over there, all the doctor's offices.
Right, but TC2 is,
Yeah, but what I'm saying is like they've maintained the buildings. It's like people come in and bought the buildings
Correct.
and
As
changed them
is,
into
yeah.
businesses. You know, it's like, it's expensive to fix them up. And so it's like the only way you can afford to do it is to actually have a business there to generate some income. Because if you keep it as a house, you can't afford to do it.
right. So that's why I'd like to see what those uses could be beyond a small boutique hotel.
You want me to go through them really quick?
Yeah,
Please.
that would be great.
So these are either permitted or conditionally permitted. Bank, bed and breakfast, medical, dental clinic, event center, hotel, motel, office, commercial parking, indoor amusement, animal clinic, pet hospital, no outdoor animals. ATV, automobile sales, small dealerships. Oh, excuse me, sorry, I got on the wrong call. Oops.
Yeah.
Never mind. No on the animal clinic, no on the ATV.
That's better.
Sorry.
I pictured some really
Yeah, wait a minute.
some of those like inflatable
Not
cabins.
We can do cats, we can't do horses.
I'm sorry, my finger swayed.
I was like, this is really broad.
Okay, so back up. Okay, yes on the hotel, motel, office, yes. And then you jump down to bar, tavern, yes. Nightclub, yes. Fitness center, garden shop, general retail, pet services, which is like a little pet shop, brew restaurant, general restaurant, theater, studio, fitness, dance, yoga. That's about it.
The kennel,
TC2?
yeah?
Not a kennel. The pet, or I guess the kennel was conditional, isn't it?
Yeah, kennel's conditional.
No ATVs though. That's good.
I was like, wait a minute, that doesn't sound right.
And it can't be a bar or a tavern because it's across from the tabernacle, correct?
Correct. State law would go ahead.
Probably not,
That.
yeah. Temple, with the temple looming right over the top there. That's a little,
They get low
that could
sales
be,
in Utah.
They could
yeah.
do the tabernacle like you said in downtown Salt Lake.
Yep.
That could be a little ominous, having a tavern right there at the foot of the temple, so. All right. Planning commission voted yes.
Unanimously.
Yeah. And that was based on that, this TC Town Center and the fluff was
Yeah.
part of that
Yeah.
decision, right?
Yeah, that was part of our conversation.
So Jeannie, are there things in that list, can I ask specifically, that worry you in this part of town across from the temple? Can I be that specific? Like obviously we're looking at her rezone, but future use of TC, were there anything specific there? Can I be that specific with you?
And I'll interject, it's not just the use, it's like physically what would
Right.
happen if the properties were sold.
So it's more just the demolition of the building and something ugly going in there in the future.
And it is, what do we want the character to be?
Well, I know, but ugly is very subjective. Can we regulate ugly?
No, you can't regulate
Can't
it.
regulate ugly.
They kicked me out of the meeting, so.
Taste is more than just in your mouth.
No, I'm being sarcastic, I know I'm new, I'll shut up. Just the historic building and what could be there, development-wise in the future, that's the big concern.
Yeah, because once it's zoned, it's zoned.
Yep, once it's zoned, it's zoned.
Well, we can always downgrade it.
Future
More
land,
sarcasm.
yeah, as a future land use calls for TC2 or TC to be here.
I know, but I'm gonna,
What do we,
Yeah.
what do we
our
want?
future land use plan is an image that we have created for potential development at some point. It is not a roadmap to where we're going. So I just want us to think through those, the character. I had this conversation with Russ and Tanya earlier today, that I don't think our zoning is related to property value, or we're not zoning for someone to make more money or less money. We're zoning to create the character of a town that we would like to live in. So that is my only concern.
But I do feel like our project's great.
Yeah.
So I just want to read what the town center development standards are in our code. The town center zoning district is established to encourage dense residential development in the downtown area within a compact, walkable urban form. A mixture of uses is encouraged but not required. It's distinguished in terms of the scale, use, and intensity of new development in the blocks immediately west or east of Main Street, and is considered the outer core of downtown Logan. So it's to encourage dense residential development.
I.e. rentals.
I.e. rentals. Well, I mean,
Which we need some
because
of.
you can't mandate that somebody build condos, right?
Correct.
Right. And that's what we've seen in the TC zone, is that it's rentals.
Yep. And at what point do we become Layton? Or Orem, or
I thought Syracuse was the joke.
any number of communities.
This is all public record.
Anyway, I've stated my opinion.
I like the project. I think it's cute. Good luck. I hope it works for you. I move for approval of ordinance 24-01.
I'll second it.
Okay, is there more discussion? I'm with.
I mean, I understand the
Jeannie on
concerns,
this,
but
that was a concern
I understand the
of-
concerns too. I think Jeannie has a very legitimate concern for sure.
But I don't see in the even semi-near future someone buying up this.
I've got to tell you what, we've been surprised before.
We've been surprised before, but you know, it's like, I think this is a better intention to retain what you've got than what could potentially go if she can't afford to do it and just ends up selling to somebody else. So I like the current ownership.
But right now, it's in R6,
It is.
so.
But somebody else could come with a different plan.
So Russ, are
That's
there
like
any
there's all
other
these
creative
possibilities, yeah.
solutions to allowing a project but not changing the zone to TC2?
I don't think so. I mean, the only path for her and her project is TC2.
She could go back to a short-term rental.
Yeah.
She could keep the short-term rental. You do not want to change the language in NR6 to
No,
allow.
No.
No, that's why I made that point. If we did it, it
Bad
would
idea.
be all over it would be all over the city.
I'm just afraid at some point the state's going to come and tell us we can't have residential zones anyways.
No, there's nothing in that.
I know, but I think it's coming.
Right now.
Well,
I think it's
That's-
coming.
3 more years.
it's just, we're not talking about residential.
Well, we are
zones.
talking about like what's happening in the future. We're trying to decide who's going to come in and like build something big that we don't want. So it's like, well, I think the state's going to come in and say we can't have residential zones anymore. So we'll find out.
So I feel like this request is forcing that issue of reevaluating TC2 in this block, because it's not just this.
We have a couple.
Do we have more conversation? Do we want to vote? What's the thought tonight? Are you ready to vote? Do you want
You're
to
asking
discuss
me.
it some more?
Yeah.
You're in charge.
My second week.
I'm asking.
That's me.
I do not.
Motion on the table.
I do not have any more discussion.
We're in the discussion. We can call the question. We can keep discussing it. We can
Postpone it.
postpone it. We can, there's lots of things we can do. I just want to make sure everybody's comfortable with where we're at, and if people feel ready to vote on it or not.
I'm good.
Mark is good.
Yeah, I'm good.
You ready to vote? Okay. All right, all in favor of, what is this one?
2401.
All in favor of ordinance 2401, please say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Say aye.
In the tie, it's as if it was voted no.
All right,
Does not pass.
So it does not pass?
does not pass.
So you good to go?
It failed.
All right, so we'll move on to our next action item, which is a public hearing rezone on ordinance 42-02.
24.
24-02.
42.
I skipped it down.
42.
24-02.
Okay, this is on the other side of town, way out on the edge of town. This is in the IP zone currently. It's located at 1950 North, 1000 West. It's almost 4.5 acres, and the applicant is trying to rezone this to airport for the purpose of constructing commercial storage units. This project has a history. I will be very brief. They received a permit to build 900 storage units. That permit expired. They are appealing that decision. It's gone through our land use appeals board as well as the district court, and they have both sided with staff saying that it in fact did expire. The applicant is continuing to appeal that, but he is also pursuing a rezone for the purpose of getting a new permit. And the reason for airport zone is that is the only zone that now allows storage units. Because between the time of his initial approval and expiration, the city changed the ordinance associated with the IP zone to no longer allow commercial storage units. So the only zone that does allow them now is airport. That's the short story. It does not follow the fluff. The Planning Commission recommended no, do not rezone it. The Airport zone is farther north. It's kind of this gray. It's kind of hard to see on this map image. And then the IP is purple. The area was just recently annexed into the city a few years ago, a handful of years ago.
So the property south of it is in the county still, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
The Campbell Scientific Project that you mentioned earlier, Jeannie, is located directly adjacent, so it's a large addition here. They're doing some research.
What other projects have we had going to Industrial Park recently?
Go into?
Yeah, just.
Well, the big ones were Costco, and then all the warehousing, the Owls.
Blue Springs.
Blue Springs warehousing.
FedEx distribution.
Cytiva down south end of town, Icon, and a couple other warehouses south of Icon. We've had a lot of warehousing.
So,
Yeah, we have.
so Industrial Park has been very productive lately.
Yes.
Yes, we've had a lot of activity and permits. Generally speaking, office is a little bit slower, but warehousing is booming as we kind of transition to this internet-based retail. A lot of businesses need warehousing space, and they hold product and then ship it and deliver it. And
property's getting more and
more
more valuable then.
And I think that originally when we changed IP to not allow storage units, we had some concerns that it was a very intensive land use, but it didn't deliver the outcomes that we had hoped for the IP zone.
Right. That makes sense.
Any other questions for Russ before we open the public hearing?
No.
Okay, this is a public hearing. Anyone who'd like to speak to ordinance 24-02, please come to the microphone. State your name and your location.
I'm Josh Mulder, Logan. Yeah, I'm confused. I've been following this since the last meeting and I'm confused as to why planning and zoning is against this. I remember one of the reasons that was brought up why they didn't want to do this was because the amount of people employed, maybe one person employed, maybe two people employed. But I think honestly, if the city was thinking about employment, then they wouldn't be, doing things like, what they're doing with the Woodsonia's project. And so I don't think that is an avid reason as to why this project shouldn't be approved. Honestly, this guy, had been planning on doing this for, a while, and so what if he got delayed or whatever reason? There's nothing, if you want to get, storage units off of Main Street, like the ones down on, I think it's Fifth South, you need to create something, and this is actually a pretty good place to put storage units. Yeah, you can put warehouses there, but we still have a ton of warehouses, and we still have a lot of property that still can be allocated for warehouses and for commercial areas. So, honestly, I don't know why they would not approve it. So, thanks.
Thanks, Josh.
Go for it.
Gail Yost, personal reasons, but I have been before planning and zoning, and they are very meticulous about how they make decisions. They don't do it just because of personal bias. And I think if they're saying there's something wrong with putting airport in this area, when the airport is so much further up north, that there's a good reason for it. If he wants to make storage units, why doesn't he get it closer to airport? Why doesn't he go to the county? And I'm just thinking, I've rented storage units, and they don't really take care of them very well, the people who own them or manage them. And I would hate to see that happening for something like this. With 900 units, people could die in a unit and nobody would know. Sorry.
Hopefully not.
But it,
Hopefully not
you
is
know,
right, but-
I watch too much
slow logic.
police dramas. But the thing is, I really don't understand why he wants airport when he could get so much closer to airport. So if the planning and zoning denied it, what was the vote on that?
It was unanimous.
It was unanimous.
That's speaking pretty plainly. Thank you.
Thanks, Gail.
All right, well, thanks for your time this evening. I'm Skylar Hartman. I'm the property owner here of this project. Couple concerns. This would not be a Class D facility. It would be a Class A facility, very, very much like a retail facility, not what you see on Main Street. So you can kind of, our operations are different than most, or some. So we would maintain it, upkeep it, and it's an asset to us. It's not something that just brings us money. Speaking to somebody dying in there, we use a lot of technology in our process. So we've got smart locks, which have motion sensors in them and fire sensors. So we're not going to have animals in there. We're not going to have people in there. And it's going to be a safe, clean facility. We know who comes and who goes every second. It's logged, it's tracked. We know who gets in their units, so nobody can break into somebody else's unit without us knowing, unless they cut into it somehow, and we'll get them on motion sensor and camera. But besides that, the reason this project was stalled was because we were ready to submit. We did notice our conditional use permit expired. We came to the city and said, hey, we made a mistake. We missed our deadline. Can you guys please give us an extension? They did extend it with some conditions. And we went to submit our building plan, and my architect basically said, hey, we don't have anywhere to put sewage. We can't submit a building permit. So that's the reason we're delayed. I mean, that's honestly it. We spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in design. I think this still fits the vision of the city, and it fits that zone. I don't think it's an outlier in this area. And this gentleman spoke to the fact that it is a good project and it does fit, and how are we going to get the storage units off Main Street if there's no demand? I mean, those are great points. And also, you guys did remove it because it is an intensive land use, in your words, and not a lot of employment. So I think it was removed because there's not a lot of community benefit, is what was envisioned, but there is a benefit to the community. We wouldn't build storage facilities if there wasn't a need. They're all 95% occupied. So there's a community need right there. I mean, that's about all I have to say, but I mean, we've been working hard on this. We're tired of going to appeal court and all this other stuff. We've got a great project. It's going to be a gorgeous thing, a gorgeous site and facility, but you know, we need your help tonight to get this across the line. We've been working on it for over 3 years. I'm not some major developer. I'm just the guy next door, father, who's trying to, put food on the table for my kid, trying to live the American dream here. So hope you guys can support that. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. Anybody else? All right, seeing no one, I'll bring it back to the council for action.
So when we talked last time, there was a great deal of timeline involved and missed deadlines. And I don't, I don't like the idea of sticking a little chunk of airport in the middle of the IP zone. So I would say that it's hard, but I think that the city did everything they could do to allow the project to go forward, but deadlines were missed and it didn't work out. So I personally don't think rezoning it is a good idea.
Any other comments, questions?
Mike talked about this last time. How long was the extension? How long was the extension for?
3 months.
So the project expired in October. In November, a conditional extension was granted to the end of December. So it was just,
And then nothing happened until like May, right?
May was when the building permit was submitted.
Was there any contact between?
Yes, there
the
was
city in that time?
email correspondence between Public Works and the applicant concerning the sewer.
Yeah.
But the extension specifically said submit a building permit by December 30th.
I'm assuming you saw where they were at when you allowed that extension in terms of development.
They said they were ready to go.
Yeah, they met with Mike and Tanya. It sounded like they were ready to go, and that's why the conditional extension was granted.
But that extension was a realistic timeline for where they were already at the project.
I'm trying to remember the day in November. I think I wrote it down.
I think it was the same day the extension was approved. 16th of November.
Yeah, middle November. So it was about a 45-day extension.
Is there sewer out there?
No,
No sewer.
not directly adjacent. And they've worked on that design since, but
There's sewer at Campbell Scientific, obviously.
yes, there is south of here. There's sewer intent, but it's a high pressure line that you can't tap into. But the
But you
process,
don't have to have sewer organized to get a building permit, do you?
it's part of the process. So typically, if there's loose ends, you submit your building permit with all the information that you have, and then the city responds and said, okay, you need sewer here, or you need to do this or do that to comply with our codes.
But you've already submitted the permit.
Right, the application has been submitted at that time. It's a back and forth for a few weeks until the building permit is actually ready to be issued.
Okay. But the process itself was not hindered. The requirements that were given and agreed to in November were not hindered by anything that we didn't know about. I mean, obviously, because the district court and everybody has already said that you all followed a process.
Yeah, I mean, the correspondence with Public Works was technical questions, what size is the sewer, where is it located? They responded, but that was the extent of it. There wasn't a Public Works official that said, you're extended beyond December 30th, keep talking to me, we'll figure it out. That could have been the assumption of the applicant. That was one of their arguments, but the extension was very clear, submit a building permit application by December 30th. And that was not accomplished until May the following year.
And the timeline from when the code was changed to disallow?
That was like a year
That was
before.
the previous March.
That was a year before.
That was the previous March.
When the.
The previous
current-
year or the, like?
When the current approval was still in force.
The original approval was granted on October 2021. The following March, the code was changed. The project expired in October 22. The conditional extension was issued in November 22, and that expired December 30th, 2022. And then May 2023, the building permit was submitted. There's my quick timeline there.
Yeah, there's a lot that's happened on 10th since this was first put in. I mean, Costco's right there now, so a lot of stuff happening on that road.
And your decision shouldn't be based on the lawsuit at all, so it's a policy decision, so it's
Yeah.
separate.
No. I'm just looking at potential of that property now. It's like, holy smoke. I'd hang on to it. You're gonna make a lot more money doing something else with that property.
So could you, aside from the storage unit, is there any difference between IP and AP in terms of usage?
Yeah, there's a wide range of differences. IP allows a ton of different industrial and manufacturing uses. It allows wholesaling, retail, it allows restaurants. Airport does allow the storage unit, but other than that, it's geared more for airport-related uses, and it might be a little premature. It's thinking more Salt Lake International than Logan Cache, because it allows like hotels and restaurants and things like that quite aren't appropriate at this time. But then
Maybe someday.
other kind of airport-related uses, obviously hangars and any sort of airport service type use is allowed in the airport zone, but that's the general differences.
I still think rezoning it as far away from the airport zone as it is and sticking it in the middle of IP is probably not a grand plan.
And that's Campbell Scientific just to the southeast, and they're
Yep.
expanding to the north.
Yep. I don't like having just this little island of airport.
Yeah.
Do you have the bigger map
Think it
of
makes
where AP, the closest things?
And there's
What if that
county
was
in
the quarter
between.
mile?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, there's parts of that that are still unincorporated county.
Yeah, anything west of the red line.
Yeah.
So how long has this parcel been part of Logan City? Is this a recent?
Less than 5
annexation?
years.
So it was annexed right before the
Yeah, I'm
proposal
trying to remember the
was
date,
done?
around 2019.
I mean, I keep looking at that parcel to the south, obviously it's still county. Are we planning to annex that in the future?
Whoever owns it
Property
has
owner
to,
has to,
has to
yeah.
apply.
they have to
What, do we know
request
what
it.
it's zoned in the county?
It's not,
Just
No,
nothing?
it's just,
It's zoned
just-
ag with future use of industrial.
Okay.
And the reason it took till May is because we had to dig test pits for septic, and it was such a heavy winter. That's the reason for the timeline.
This is the long-range plan here. This shows those areas.
So that's all
Eventually,
IP.
yeah.
if we follow this roadmap.
So if the sewer would have been active, we would have submitted our permit on time.
Any further questions for Russ? Any further discussion? Anyone want to make a motion? Any?
I will move that we deny ordinance 24-02.
Is there a second? second for that?
All right.
Thinking about it. I'll second.
Do we have any further discussion on this? Any other thoughts, comments, questions?
No.
So this one also is a struggle.
Yeah.
Because
I don't like this one. I don't like stopping progress, but I think this is better as industrial.
which was the decision that we made back that March.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
I want to give it to him, but
Doesn't mean I have to like it.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean I have to like it. Yeah. I mean, Campbell's is expanding there. There's so many opportunities to do so many different things in this area. I see that property is just like so much more valuable as Campbell Scientific than it is as a storage unit, but who knows where it's going to go. So
more valuable with the IP, retaining the IP.
there's so much happening in that,
As
and there's
far
so
as-
much happening on 10th right now too. It's like 10th is just growing like crazy. So.
But I would like to say that I believe that the reason I proposed denial was that I don't think we should spot zone.
Yeah.
So it's changing the zone.
It's changing the zone back, yeah.
Correct.
For the area.
Correct.
Yeah, I don't think airport would be a problem there at some point, but I think it's more valuable as industrial.
All right. Any other discussion? Ready to vote? You have a question?
A procedural question.
Go ahead.
Voting aye on a denial is a yes, I agree with denying.
All in favor of the denial? Yes.
There you
That
go.
was the
Yeah.
question.
Just making sure
He's just putting his ducks in a row.
Well, you know,
Yeah.
it is my second week, and you guys are making it difficult.
Yes, no.
Not you guys.
Right, right,
Not
Mike?
you.
Welcome
Not
to
you.
City Council, Mike.
All in favor of the denial would be a vote aye. Okay,
Just confirming.
all right. Are we ready? Okay. All in favor of a denial on ordinance 24-02, vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ordinance 42-02 is denied.
Awesome.
We need to continue ordinance 23-31 to April 16.
Yep.
I so move.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor of moving, is it moving?
Continuing.
All in favor of continuing ordinance 23-31 to April 15th, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Ordinance 23-31 is continued.
We can continue.
And I am leaving.
Okay. Are you coming back to the workshop or are you done?
No, I'll come back for the
Back to the
workshop.
workshop.
I got some snacks. You want to take some snacks? Go home.
No, I don't need snacks.
I need snacks.
Should probably be noted for the minute, she's not just leaving, she's recusing herself
Yes.
on the next item, just so that's reflected in the minutes.
Thanks, Holly.
So our next action item is a continuation of ordinance 23-35, which is a rezone. This is not a public hearing. It's just a continuation. Tanya,
What would you like from me, Chair?
do you want to just throw up the
So much more.
things to refresh people's minds since this is from
Sure.
actually because Mike was not
Oh, I'm familiar with
on the
it.
council.
Yeah.
But-
And I met with them this week to make sure I was
Okay.
up to date.
We went through this.
Mike, Russ, and Tanya met Tuesdays? Totals?
Yeah.
No, Thursday last
Thursday
week.
last
Today's
week.
Tuesday.
It was
I don't
Thursday
know what
last
it is.
week.
It was Thursday last week.
Yeah. I wasn't there, but I know about
Have we gotten any public comment on this at all, Tanya? Just Tom?
Just Tom.
Yes.
There have been a couple of verbal inquiries as to how to make a comment, but I asked today and there weren't any comments that were actually made.
People asked how to make a comment on this one, but they never submitted a comment. Okay.
We did get one letter
yesterday.
A couple of weeks ago, where the person asked to stay anonymous. Did you get that one, Mark?
I don't recall, honestly.
So I did receive an email on it.
I did not.
Can I look at your email? Was I included on this email? Was it before my email was included on these emails?
I think it was before your email was in.
I feel like left out of these emails now. Most wants me to stop being sarcastic. So I looked over a couple times and he said, you can't say that about other cities. Oh, no, I did get this one.
Yeah.
You'll meet people from Syracuse at the league meeting, so nice, right?
I probably have family that lives in Syracuse. It's okay.
So yeah, if you could just do a quick overview of it, kind of that would be
8
appreciated.
properties, sure thing. 8 properties, 7 applicants, wanting to rezone from TC2 to NR6. The future land use map, which we have always taken as a very hard-working, deliberate document from you all, and we use that to ensure consistency and predictability as planners. It's been an important part of our process. This is currently what the zoning looks like, and this is essentially what they are wanting. Currently, the street from First to Second East is very representative of what you had just read, Amy, about the intention for TC2. We've got a mixture of residential, multifamily, and commercial uses. This is the proposal. Oh, wow. Let me just go through some of the things that we just to summarize our decision making. The TC2 zoning aligns with the general plan, the Adams plan, current zoning, and the goals of outer core downtown, which we just talked about. Currently zoned as a buffer or transition between higher density of downtown, TC1, and the neighborhoods that reside to the east. Lowering density is contrary to long-term overall goals and visions expressed by the general plan and current zoning, and staff considers deliberate planning efforts and desires important, and the TC2 zoning district should remain. The Planning Commission voted to deny this 6-0. Some concerns that they had in why they agreed with the denial was that it sets a precedence to down zone and spot zone. They suggested revisiting the allowable uses to ensure compatibility with the character. And the TC2 and HPC guidelines provide a layer of protection. Demolition is possible, but a rebuild would live within those historic preservation guidelines. So that's a summary. If you want more detail on anything, please ask.
Remind me when it was moved to TC?
2018.
2018. And what was it before that previously?
All TC. It was all just TC, abruptly ending at.
TC2. And as I recall, Mike said, or previously that said, it had been that for 50 years.
The north boundary, or the northern part of this, has been commercially zoned since the 50s. The southern portion of the street has been zoned commercially since the 80s.
Any questions for Tanya? Mike, any questions?
My question is there a different way for us to preserve historical houses without changing the zone?
Something
Other than what we have in place for historical preservation?
Something that was discussed during the meeting when Mike came in, that Mike Desimoni brought up, was potentially putting a layer, or allowing or permitting, I don't know, the residents, that they
Recommending to the
recommend
residents.
that the residents make an HOA. They can make an HOA and have their own set of rules and their own parameters of what they can and can't do, which would limit sale or
neighborhood.
whatever they want it to look like. It doesn't have to be a rezone. It can be, which I think was thinking out of the box. And
Yeah.
we really deliberated in that meeting about what to do, how to do
Yeah,
it, where.
I wrote this quote down: what we don't want is the wanton loss of history and character and the unsustainable sending off to landfill of homes that are 100 years old that could live to be 200.
Yeah.
But yet, that's different than the zone, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's, I think
Yeah.
that's the,
Yeah.
Doesn't protect the
Protect
home.
those
I just
any more than
I just looked in that neighborhood and I see a lot of homes that have been converted that have been upgraded and fixed and restored and retained, but they're not homes anymore.
Right,
They're
commercial
businesses, but we've retained that character, and I think that is a very good use for that area. It's hard to live downtown in a house, so.
Well, I think
but yet but we do want people to live downtown.
We do want
And
people to
I
live
think
downtown, but yeah.
That's that tension, right?
Yeah.
Between, is all the downtown living,
Yeah.
multi-story, high-rise on top,
Yeah.
or is some of the living residential?
Where it's been zoned this for 70 years, and those houses are still there after 70 years
Of commercial.
of commercial.
the other thing that I keep coming back to on this is there's 2 vacant lots in there.
Yeah.
And then there's 2 multifamily units in there. I mean, only half of the homes in there are
NR6.
NR6 anyway.
And there's a bunch of businesses too, Englewood,
Well,
Coach
but if
there.
we look at the ones being rezoned,
Yeah. the ones
I mean,
that are
obviously a lot, I guess,
Yeah.
is sort of NR6.
I'm just like looking at that block going, it's like there's businesses there already. So, I don't know, on that empty lot, is somebody gonna build a single family home?
I mean, they probably shouldn't. They should probably build a nice little duplex or triplex
Fourplex or
you know, something that looks nice and fits downtown and allows us to have some gentle density
To
downtown.
be honest, it's a better use of the property in that location to have multiple uses instead of one. But,
Well, and I look at, what was her name? With the Bloomsbury.
Brenda, son.
Son, what did I say? I thought it was son. I mean, she spent $100,000 renovating. And I said that with this one, but I don't think you're gonna get many
people are gonna spend.
people are gonna spend $100,000 renovating a single-family home in R6.
I'll just build a new one.
I mean, my wife wants to live in an old house.
I
We talk
know,
all the time,
I
but I'm
know.
like,
we-
sell my house, buy a house. I don't have $200,000 to.
Tanya, do you have a map of like that entire
Sure.
area with the flop by
I
any
do.
chance?
I pulled up the, give
It's
me
all
one
TC.
second.
Sorry, just like,
So here's our map. I can do anything you want me to do.
So if you could go from like 200 north to center and 200 east
Yeah.
to 200 west.
With the flup or
With the flop.
Yeah, because I'm just running through my mental inventory and I'm going,
Okay, let me
you've got
find my
the,
bearings.
you've got the Sunrise Cyclery, you've got the tea shop, you've
Okay, so
got,
this right here is our street. Here's Little Bloomsbury,
Leonone.
here's our street.
you've
So
got
I'm
the,
just gonna turn on the layer. This is the flop.
So that's all TC.
TC.
Yes,
Just TC.
that is all TC.
you've got,
Okay.
And zoning is what you guys wanted it to look like, or what you voted for it to look
Right.
like. And Mike was saying that it was upwards of 1.5 years of real serious concentration, deliberation, thought-provoking. This is the current zoning. We've got the TC1 and again, we're looking right here at our location.
Okay, thanks. So what I would like to do, just speaking my thought, based on this and our previous discussion is, I would tend to vote a denial on this, but I would like for us to just reevaluate the TC2 zone as a whole and would make the recommendation that in the flup, those areas that should be TC2, that we just zone them TC2 now. So that would be that, we talk about it, we do that whole stretch along.
yeah.
Second East, like anything right now, like just let's figure it out and just do it. I mean, the reason wasn't a fan of the previous one is because it was this little stretch of TC2 with NR6 on either side of it. And so to me, it feels like, let's have a discussion about what that TC2 really looks like. How do we, like, is it the use that we're worried about? Is it the size of the buildings? Like, I know it hasn't been that long and you guys are over there going, damn it, Amy, this is more work for us.
I don't think those.
But I just feel like, let's just make the areas that now versus have people come to us for the next 2 years with.
And ask for spot zones.
You can come up to the mic, Mike, if you have something to
Here's
say.
the historic overlay. It's difficult to see, but.
I just don't think those single-family homes there on Second are incompatible with the town center.
Many of them.
So is that? Yeah, it's just like, I don't see why they're incompatible.
Can I just address your point?
Yeah.
So we actually did that. We did that in 2012. We had zoned all of those strip areas as whatever it was back then, town center.
Town center.
We did it on Second East, First West. But the council at that time said, wait a second, because they have the public input that said, we don't want to be commercial yet. Let the properties come in individually and ask individually based on their own merits. So that's really what you were looking at tonight was Brenda's property.
That's what we got.
Based on its own merits, does it make sense, given what the FLUP says, what we know eventually is going to happen there? So regardless of what's next door, we know eventually it's all going to turn, but we don't know if it's going to happen this year, 5 years, 20 years, whatever else. So we did what you exactly just said, but then we got pushed back not to do that.
Yeah, so what's the value of making people do it individually though? Because then you do end up with these little spot zoned areas of this is TC, this is residential, this is.
I don't know if it's spot zoned, if it's bordering.
The value is you just force them to perfect what their plan is and what their request is. It gives you the ability to look at it, because this is a discretionary action on your part to rezone or upzone or downzone. So it just forces them to come in with a cleaner project, a cleaner idea of what they want to do. So.
And you think that's the more effective way to zone in this area?
Well, it's wasted an hour and a half tonight of our time talking about a project. It would have been easier just to zone to the line and call it good.
Yeah.
But again, the input that we got when we did the zoning again in 2012, because we went through the process in 2011, we had a lot of outcry that people didn't get noticed. So we said, okay, let's step back, let's do some public notification. We mailed everybody in the city a postcard more than once and said, hey, we're doing this. And that was the comment we heard was, why are you zoning my property commercial when I had no intentions of developing it commercially? When I die, my heirs might want to do it or may want to sell it. And so we pushed back a little bit from that street boundary. I mean, it would be cleaner to have the street as your boundary. I mean, I think that would be the cleanest way, but this just forced folks to ask individually to look, then you could look at it as context and action.
My point is the best way to keep it the way it is not sell it. If you don't sell it, you don't have to change it.
As the property owner.
As the property owner, if you don't sell it, it can stay the same for eternity if you want. It can be zoned whatever, but if you don't sell it to somebody else, we're going to be able to change it. So I'd have a hard time with us like trying to rezone stuff and anticipate what's going to happen in the future. I don't want somebody to come in and do it different, but it's like this project works for us right now. Why can't I look at that and just say I'm good with this project? And that's what I tried to do tonight. And for me, this just does the exact opposite. It's like it just pushes us back.
You have to be comfortable with the range of uses that are allowed. They may say, we're going to do this, but in turn tomorrow, if they get the rezone, they may do something different.
They can change
You
it.
look at the entire range of uses, say, is that palatable for what this location is? When we went through this whole town center process 2 years ago, I thought we were pretty concrete on what we all thought was palatable on these fringe areas. Because this is only 2 blocks off of downtown, and this side is literally a block
away.
Yeah. And from a policy standpoint, it's a little frustrating because then the request we're going to get is somebody in Hillcrest to say, well, I want to zone my property commercial now. I mean, we just need some good policy direction on when we respond to people about which way are we going as a city. I mean, ask the question about what's our end game in town center. Well, what we envision there is what we've envisioned for the last 60 years. Eventually, it's going commercial. That's what we eventually want to see happen. But like Mark says, if I own the property and I want to keep my old house as an old house and live there,
You can.
you can, yeah. So,
I'd see us, if we change this back to NR6, in 5 years, somebody's gonna come and buy 3 of those pieces of property, and they're gonna come and say, I need it back to TC2, we're just gonna switch it back again. It's like, that just makes no sense to me.
Job
So everybody, yeah, well, I guess it is job security. We're talking about what the police department today, if we didn't have drugs and alcohol, they wouldn't have anything to do, so.
But it doesn't, and if you're just asking for a rezone, you don't have to have a project attached. So the question of it is, then I can look at it and make a decision if I like that project. A rezone doesn't need to have a project. It's just saying,
Yeah.
I'd like to do this in this area.
I also feel to some degree we should.
Yeah, see, I felt like her intent tonight, she'd already asked for a conditional use permit, it's just like, we know what she's gonna do with it.
But we're not that, we're zoners.
Even if she wasn't
Planning
a
is the
small,
project.
4-bedroom little.
But planning,
I'm just gonna throw my
planning
pen
commission
one more time, so.
approves the project to be approved the zoning. We shouldn't be approving things, project. We don't
I know,
approve
I know.
projects, we approve the zoning.
But when they come to us with a rezone that has a project that fits, then
And planning
I'm
commission
just like,
felt like it was good.
yeah, let's do it. So,
And truthfully, I mean, at some point across from the temple is going to be commercial.
it's gonna be commercial. Unless people decide not to sell their houses.
And I would love to go grab a sandwich after a wedding.
And on that north side of the temple, you got a whole bunch of apartments, you got a whole bunch of
Drive all the way home.
type housing complexes. I mean, it's already there. And in this area, the commercial's already there, and there's gonna be more. But if we wanna preserve those houses, this is what my objection was a month ago. What is the objective? It's like, do we not want commercial there, or do we want to keep the houses? And I think by rezoning it, that doesn't guarantee that we're going to keep those houses.
Yeah, and it's
The only way you
for years.
could is either don't sell your property
Don't sell your
or
property.
make HOA if you don't want
Yeah.
your neighbors to do something with
You
their
know,
property.
if I don't want my property on Center Street to be a garden center anymore, then I don't sell it. You know, but if I sell it to somebody else, it's theirs. They can do whatever they want with it. You know, so yeah. So, I don't know.
Are we ready to?
I'm just kind of like,
Are we ready to?
I think I'm ready.
Does someone want to make a motion on this one?
I move denial of ordinance 23-35.
Do we have a second?
I've been seconding all sorts of things tonight. I'll second
We'll
it.
second that. Okay. Any
Why
other
not?
discussion?
I agree, we need to find a different way. And whether that's a HOA or we redo TC2, let's explore that. I'm ready to look at that because I enjoy those historical homes. I think it's worth preserving them, but I don't think we need
Which
to
I think
change.
is the
But I
point.
don't think we need to
We're
change
not
the zone.
advocating for destroying the
No,
historical
no,
homes.
no. I don't think we need to change the zone to do that, but let's work on finding a way to do that.
Okay. So
Mike was raising his hand.
those, sorry, I got a motion and a second,
Yeah.
so let me vote that, and
Good.
then if you want to come,
Yeah.
we can.
We
All right,
can
so-
discuss some more.
All those in favor of a denial for ordinance 23-35, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, ordinance 23-35 is denied. All right.
I'll go get Jeannie.
I'll let Jeannie know.
Come back for a workshop.
And Mike, what was your,
We're updating the general plan sometime this year, so that's a land use issue we've identified that we want to talk about. So instead of doing it next month, we will do it as part of that.
in the general plan?
In the plan?
Okay.
Okay.
Do we have a rough estimate on what we're doing in the general plan?
It will start probably within a month or two. We'll start putting our committees together, and it's going to be an 18-month process.
Thanks.
All right.
I'm still learning how to vote, so I probably should ask those questions too.
You're fine. All right, workshop item, only one from Rich, who's so patiently sat here through all of this. Resolution 24-03.
Super important. Okay, so these are 3 grants of various types. First is request to appropriate $71,345 from the state of Utah for police alcohol enforcement shifts. We do get this grant pretty much each year. It varies in amount for reasons I don't exactly No, but this is down just a little bit from what it was last year. A request to appropriate $53,266 for police overtime shifts. These are the ones where private entities or businesses or various events will pay us for overtime shifts for the police department. And lastly is a request to appropriate $1.5 million of additional funds awarded by COG for the 10th West project.
Does that mean the light's going to go in on Second West?
We'll have to ask.
It's going to start in the spring. They may do, well, they were thinking about doing a little stormwater work over the winter, but
10th West.
Okay.
10th North.
10th North.
Oh, okay.
So it is definitely starting in the
I said Second West.
Yeah.
second.
He said 10th West first, though, so
Yeah.
my map is not lining up with the 10th West, the second West.
And that
Which-
better not be for a crosswalk either.
Second West.
$1.5 million for a crosswalk.
That
Well, no,
is-
it's they're going to widen, you know, they've got that widening thing going on.
Yes.
acquiring all the little
property.
parcels needed
Yes.
for ease, right-of-ways. Took a long time.
So that
Thank you.
item 2, that's been essentially been paid for in permit fees and whatnot too then? Because you said that was for people hiring,
Oh,
paying for.
yeah, this is, do you know which ones these are? We have a
I mean, you
lot
don't
of
tell me
things we get
specifically.
reimbursed for.
Sure.
A lot of them are with government entities such as the state of Utah and others who will reimburse us for various joint activities.
Yeah.
We also do have, what's
Raising
that?
Cane's is one of those,
Oh.
getting reimbursed for, especially events. where
Sure.
they pay us.
Okay.
So it's always just somebody's paying us to provide $70 per hour for officers.
Which we should revisit at some point in the near future, but
What that is.
yeah. I think it's been that for 3-4 years.
Yeah, at least that long, so.
Budget's going to be here before we know it.
Oh,
No
yes.
kidding.
We've had big inflation, so.
Exciting.
All right, any questions for Rich on 23?
No.
2403? Okay. Any other considerations? No. Okay, then we are adjourned.
Nice job, Amy.
Now can I make fun of Syracuse?
Almost kept everybody.
Now can I make fun of Syracuse? Can we go back and strike that from the record? Program?
Yeah.
I know.
Oh, we got,
And my address is all over the internet these days.
these are from the William A. Bernard.
I just, kept getting chuckles and stink eyes from you over there. I wasn't sure whether you wanted me to